Welcome to this video on image formation by a concave mirror. In this video we'll be discussing the image formed when our object is beyond C, the center of curvature of the concave mirror. And so what we mean by our object being beyond C is that it's positioned somewhere like here. So let's say our object is something very simple, just an arrow, and the top of the arrow we'll call that P, point P, and the bottom of the arrow we'll call that point Q. So what we're interested in is where will the image corresponding to this object form. Remember that point F here corresponds to, or is known as, the focal point, and point O here is the center of the concave mirror. So to find where the image will form, we just have to use the rules that we met in our previous video about how light rays behave when they meet the concave mirror. In particular, you'll hopefully recall that if we have a light ray that starts from the top of the arrow, the tip of the arrow, and that ray travels parallel to the principal axis. So you see here this axis here, this straight line drawn here, the ray that I just drew is parallel to that. And recall that such rays, when they meet a concave mirror, they reflect in such a way that they pass through the focal point, like this. Okay. Now, recall also that if we were to draw a ray from the tip of the arrow that passes through the focal point, then such a ray, once it reaches the mirror, so like that, such a ray, when it reaches the mirror, it reflects parallel. It reflects in a direction parallel to the optical axis, or the principal axis. Okay, so this ray here again it's parallel to this line here, the optical or the principal axis. And basically we are done, because notice these two rays that I've drawn in here. Okay, notice that they cross, or they meet here, and this is exactly where the image of the tip or the top of the arrow will form. In other words, the image of our arrow will form here. Let me draw that again. So we can call this point here P dash or P prime, and similarly the image corresponding to the bottom of the arrow will form here at this point here. Okay, so let's call that Q dash. Okay, so the image of our object, this arrow, will form here. Okay, so a couple of things to note about this image are the following. So the image has the following properties that you should know. Notice that it's smaller in size compared to our object. So we say that the image has been diminished. Diminished means it's just smaller than the size of the original object. Notice also that whereas our original object, the arrow, was pointing up, here our image is pointing down. Okay, so we say that our image has been inverted. Or if you like, it is now upside down. The last thing to be aware about of this image is that it is a real image. Recall that it's a real image because these reflected rays, they actually meet or converge at this image point here. Okay, and that's always the case with real images. So if an observer, if somebody is actually looking at what's going on here, okay, this person, their eye and brain would see these reflected rays and think that they are coming from point P prime or P dash here. And because these reflected rays are truly coming or emerging from this point here, that makes the image real. Finally, please remember that the properties of the image that we have discussed here are specific for when the object is placed beyond C. So remember, our object, this arrow here, is positioned here, beyond the center of curvature C. In following videos, we'll see that when the object is placed between C and F, or between F and O, some of these properties of the image will change. Thank you for listening.